Okay, you guys, today we're going to practice making value scales. You guys got to learn a little bit about how value scales work. And we're going to start out today by making a 7-value scale. I'm going to use a ruler for mine. You're free to welcome to use a ruler if you'd like, but you don't need to if you don't want to. You can draw this freehand as well. I'm going to just trace the width of my ruler, and I'm going to make mine 7 inches because I know that I'm going to have 7 values. Then I'm going to use my ruler to mark the 1 inch for every one of my spaces on my value scale. Then I'm going to do that same thing again, but this time I am not going to make the little partitions in the middle because this is going to be a gradient. And this is going to be the value scale. And I like to number my value scale. And there are my 7 different values. Now I know because 1 is going to be my lightest value, that is going to be white. And since 7 is going to be my darkest value, that's going to be closest to black that I can get it with my pencil. Please notice I have switched to a wooden pencil. Wooden pencils are really much better for creating value. So if you have a wooden pencil, please use it. So since my value scale is going to go from 1 to 7, I am going to start here at 1 and work my way down. Now, because I don't want to get too dark too fast, because I have to be able to get dark enough to make 7 darker than everything else, I'm just going to very lightly, and I'm almost holding my pencil on the side. I'm not holding it up and down and using the tip. I'm using the side. Okay? So can you see how the value, the lightness or darkness of this color changed from 1 to 2? So now to go to 3, I like to do that same value again that I just did. So it looks pretty similar, and then I just like to go over it again a second time. And that will be enough to hopefully create that value change that we're trying to create. Yes, it did. So now you can see it's progressively getting darker as I go up my value scale. Now 4 is right in the middle. So everything from 4 back is a tint, and everything from 4 up is going to be a shade. And that just means these are the lighter values, and these are the darker values. So when I get to 4, I'm going to actually start putting just a little bit of pressure on my pencil. Not very much, not as hard as I normally would if I was even just writing. I'm just pushing a very little bit. For these lighter values, I didn't push at all. I just kind of very lightly touched the page. Oh, you can hear my dog's having a dream. What is it? What is it, Sadie? Okay. Don't mind her. She's probably running in the field chasing a frisbee. Okay, so now I'm up to 5, 6, 7. I need to make these values darker. So this is where I have to start really pushing a little bit harder with my pencil. I don't want to push too hard yet because I still have 2 more darker values to make. But I'm trying to make a subtle difference, but still a difference. And sometimes when you do that, it works, and sometimes it doesn't. And if it doesn't work the first time, it's better to go too light and make another pass over it than to go too dark, because once you go too dark, it's hard to get it back. So I'm still doing a good job. It's still getting progressively darker. Alright, now there's 6. I think for 6 I'm going to do what I just suggested. I'm going to try to make it darker, but really it's going to be the same value as 5. And I'm going to do that just to show you how I can fix that. Okay, so that value looks pretty much the same as this value, doesn't it? Well, there's 2 things I can do. I can do another layer right on top, going with my diagonal lines that I've been doing. Or if I want to, I can just do another layer going in a different direction. Sometimes going in a different direction is just enough to create that difference that you need. It's almost like it's filling in areas that you might have missed in the beginning. So just by very lightly going back over it in a different direction, I have been able to create that value change between 5 and 6. And now for my last value, that one I'm going to do as hard as I can. And usually when you get to these darker values, you have to make more than one pass, especially if you're just using a regular 2HB wooden pencil, which is the kind of pencil that most of us use all the time. Now, if you have an actual drawing pencil set, those come in varying degrees of hardness and softness of the lead. The softer well, it's really graphite now. The softer the graphite, the darker the value it will make. The harder the graphite, the lighter the value. Ah, there you go. 7 got darker even still, and I didn't even have to go over it a second time. So you're first going to make a value scale, then you're going to make a gradient. A gradient is exactly like the value scale, except it blends all together. Some people call this ombre. I know that there's been a while where there's been shirts that are ombre and hair that is ombre. But really it's just a gradient. And I'm going to use a napkin, but I can use my finger or a Q-tip or a smudge stick if you have one, because I'm going to be blending my values for this one. When I start out to make my gradient, what I like to do is just try to copy what I have above as far as the value is concerned. And I'm not even trying to blend them together yet. I'm just kind of recreating the value changes here. So that as I build up my my gradient, it'll start to get darker as it goes down towards the end of the page. But again, I don't want to get too dark too fast, so I'm just trying to take my time. Then I'm going to go to this next spot, which is going to be even darker still. Does it look like it's changing? Yes. Can you see where it changes? You can. We're going to fix that. Have no fear. So when you get this far, you're going to keep going. Remember 6 is that one that we had a little trouble with before, where we had to do it twice. So we can do it twice again if we want to over here, just to get it to be a little bit darker. Good, and then my last value is going to be the darkest. I'm pushing down as hard as I can to make this value nice and dark. Now, once I have all these values drawn in here, I'm going to just blend them out a little bit at a time. And I want you to pause for a second and ask yourself, which end would I start with first? Am I going to blend from the darkest to the lightest, or should I blend from the lightest to the darkest? If you guessed from the lightest to the darkest, you're correct. If I start blending down here, I'm going to take this dark value, and by the time I get it to here, it's going to be make my light values dark. So what I like to do is just start with my light values, and just kind of blend back and forth as I go. And where they connect, I just spend a little minute kind of rubbing them together. And it will be so subtle that you won't even see the values changing in the gradient. You'll just notice that they're done, that it's gone from light to dark by the time you get to the end. Okay, now look, do you see that spot right there? That could be a couple things. It could have been a fingerprint that just grabbed the value a little bit more. It could be that I just added more value there, but I can fix that by just erasing it a little bit, kind of going over it with the value that I want it to be, and then blending it out. There you go. There's my gradient. Value scale gradient. Good. I'm going to pause and let you guys spend some time working on that right now, and then you're good to go.